we'll go ahead and get into the lesson and the scriptures and get a little understanding on the blowing of the trumpets. You know, thanks to the sisters, we have a nice spread and layout where we'll be able to sit down and enjoy a feast together as well. And as we prepare to do so, we'll start by getting a little bit of understanding on the blowing of the trumpets, some of its history, and the meanings of, and usage of the past as well as the present and the future, and how it even going forward, how it links into prophecy. So this is a pretty brief lesson. Elder Ricard has went into this on another level, and brought some great and profound understanding and information out on it. We're going to deal with it on a little bit of a different lower of a level, and just dealing with the blowing of the trumpets, in a more direct and simple manner. So we'll start by going to Leviticus. And we'll start at Leviticus, the 23rd chapter.
Leviticus chapter 23, verse 23.
We're going to start by just going into the Most High's command concerning the blowing of the trumpets, the memorial of blowing of trumpets. Go ahead.
Leviticus 23, verse 23. And the Most High spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, In the 7th month, in the 1st day of the month, shall ye have a Sabbath, a memorial of blowing of trumpets, a holy convocation.
All right, there it is. This is the Most High speaking unto Moses. And when you read here in Leviticus, it is the proclamation and the proclaiming of our holy days and feasts. And so here it is, the Most High telling us that we shall have a Sabbath, a memorial of blowing of trumpets, a memory to remember, a remembrance of blowing of trumpets, right? And holy convocation. So there must be a reason behind remembering the blowing of the trumpets, if he has a holy day for us to keep and remember. Go ahead.
Verse 25, Ye shall do no servile work therein, but ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Most High.
All right, let's go from there and grab Numbers chapter 10. So, this is every year we have and have had in the past in our generations, when we were under the understanding of who we were, we would have the feast of the blowing of the trumpets, and and blew them to gather the people, similar to what we just kind of, like I said, what just took place. But there were also other uses of the blowing of trumpets. Depending on how you may have blown the trumpet, it may signify different things, or how many trumpets were blown, or the sequence of how a trumpet is blown. It's also used in time of war, or the signal movement of the. They were used in the wilderness to communicate movement and to come together, and this group move here, or this group come to the temple, and different things like that. So let's go. We're going to go to Numbers chapter 10, and we'll start at the first verse.
Numbers 10, verse 1. And the Most High spake unto Moses, saying, Make thee 2 trumpets of silver. Of a whole piece shalt thou make them, that thou mayest use them for the calling of the assembly.
Right. So, and 2, real quick, I mean, it goes without saying, but we do see how, these things are not, in remembrance whatsoever in the Christian churches and different religions, and you know other different religions that say they use the Bible as their authority. But this is what the Most High is asking of us, right? So go ahead and read that again, brother. Start from
Verse Numbers 10, verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Make thee 2 trumpets of silver, of a whole piece shalt thou make them, that thou mayest use them for the calling of the assembly, and for the journeying of the camps.
Okay, so for the calling of the assembly, and for the journeying of the camps. So they were used to call the people together. They were used for the movement of the body, the journeying of the body of the camps. So he made, and she said, gave instructions, make these trumpets. Our people. Go ahead.
Verse 3. And when they shall blow with them, all the assembly shall assemble themselves to thee at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And if they blow but with 1 trumpet, then the princes, which are heads of the thousands of Israel, shall gather themselves unto thee.
Okay, so here we see, like, blow. If they blow but with 1 trumpet, it's signifying one thing versus several or 2 trumpets. And you see it saying it's gathering the heads together. Okay, we're going to get together and discuss something or have a meeting. If you hear that 1 trumpet,
Verse 5. When ye blow an alarm, then the camps that lie on the east parts shall go forward.
Okay, so now here's another type of blow, the blowing of an alarm. The first one was a blow with 1 trumpet, but then there's still a different type of blow that signified or distinguished as an alarm. And when ye blow an alarm, then the camps that lie on the east part shall go forward. Okay?
Verse 6. When ye blow an alarm the second time, then the camps that lie on the south side shall take their journey. They shall blow an alarm for their journeys.
Mm-hmm. So we see that there's even within the blowing of the trumpets, the order. It kind of directed the order of our people, to know who is when and in what order we file in ranks and in order of journeying. It very important. This was an important piece to our people. It was an important communication piece. Go ahead.
Verse 7. But when the congregation is to be gathered together, ye shall blow, but ye shall not sound an alarm.
Okay. So there's a difference again, distinguishing against an alarm and just the different types of blowing of the trumpet. Go ahead.
Verse 8. And the sons of Aaron, the priest, shall blow with the trumpets, and they shall be to you for an ordinance forever throughout your generations.
Forever. And they shall be to you for an ordinance forever throughout your generations. So yeah, we're reading from the Old Testament, but this is saying right now that this is an ordinance forever throughout our generations. Go ahead. For those who, may have the feeling that this is something old and a trumpet doesn't matter and that's something that just happened in the wilderness in the old times with Moses. This is not just for the old time. It's relevant for the present, and it's relevant, as we'll see, going into the future as well.
Verse 9. And if ye go to war in your land against the enemy that oppresseth you, then ye shall blow an alarm with the trumpets, and ye shall be remembered before the Most High your power, and ye shall be saved from your enemies. Verse 10.
And going there, we'll get into a couple of times, specific examples where this obedience to the Most High of, hey, make a trumpet, blow it this way at this time for these reasons, is for a reason. Our obedience then to the Father is what allows us to have the Father to be with us and go before us and operate as our power in the spiritual realm. So this isn't just something, just some idea for no reason. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 10. Also in the day of your gladness, and in your solemn days, and in the beginnings of your months, ye shall blow with the trumpets over your burnt offerings, and over the sacrifices of your peace offerings, that they may be to you for a memorial for your power. I am the Most High, your power.
Blow it over the burnt offerings and over sacrifices of your peace offerings, that they may be to you for a memorial before your power. A memorial to remember. Let's go from there and we'll go to Isaiah 58. But like when we just read in verse 9, back in Numbers chapter 10, verse 9, I'll read it. And if ye go to war in your land against the enemy that oppresseth you, then ye shall blow an alarm with the trumpet, and ye shall be remembered before the Lord your God. You know, so it's not that the horn is a weapon. I mean, it is. But it's not that the horn is blowing an enemy away or the sound is piercing, like I was saying, you know, piercing someone's ear or causing harm in battle. But this horn, like the Most High said, is it shall be, then ye shall blow an alarm with the trumpet, and ye shall be remembered before the Most High. Being in obedience, then the Most High can come to our defense and be our power and be our weapon. You will be remembered before the Most High your God, and ye shall be saved from your enemies. Right? All right. So we're going to Isaiah 58.
Verse 1.
Yes, please start at verse 1.
Isaiah 58, verse 1. Cry aloud, spare not, lift up thy voice like a trumpet, and show my people their transgression,
Right.
and the house of Jacob their sins.
Right. So, and as we see, the trumpet has different purposes. And so here we're going into, you know, kind of a more of a relevant and understanding of today and how we are to be trumpets. You know, we're not, we're to keep the remembrance of the trumpet forever. You know, but are we currently in a position right now where we're in the wilderness and blowing the trumpet for assembly or for journeying? No, but it does apply directly to us, like for exactly and directly when we read Isaiah 58. Read that again.
Isaiah 58 and 1. Cry aloud, spare not, lift up thy voice like a trumpet, and show my people their transgression, and the house of Jacob their sins.
Because when we see the trumpet was used as a warning, as an alarm, warning the people. So now here it is, the people, us, those who understand, are being referred to, and our voice is being referred to as raising it up as a trumpet and warn the people. You know, we are to alert and make a distinct sound to go out before the people with the information of this truth and waking them up and warning them to what the time is and the truth of who they are and the truth of the times that we live in. Can you go to grab Hosea, and we'll go to the 8th, chapter 8.
What verse?
We'll start at the first verse. So we see that how relevant already that the trumpet and the blowing of the trumpets is. And we're going to see it has even more importance and meaning. So much of an importance in these days. Always have. But even, you know, it has a specific correlation to some of the things of today that give it, you know, a level of importance as well. We are to be trumpets.
Hosea 8, verse 1. Set the trumpet to thy mouth. He shall come as an eagle against the house of the Most High, because they have transgressed my covenant and trespassed against my law.
So here again, you know, just another scripture showing how we are to be as trumpets. Set the trumpet to thy mouth, because he's coming against the house of the Most High. Warn the people. Tell them who they are. Tell them the time and what time it is, what's going on, what's at hand. Many of us live in different ways, not even understanding that we're in the midst of a battle. We more concerned about, frivolous things of, what we're going to purchase next. All right, let's go ahead and we need to warn the people. We need to let them know.
Let's read verse 2.
Yes, read verse 2.
Israel shall cry unto me, my power, we know thee.
Yeah, go ahead and read. Keep reading that. Read 2 and then go to 3.
Israel has cast off the thing that is good. The enemy shall pursue him.
I mean, and we can go on, but we see what this is saying. Our people are being pursued. Like I said, many of them don't understand that many of the things going on around them is directed directly towards them. They're being pursued and don't know it. They're too consumed with, the remote control and television, or, what's the next material advancement they can make, not understanding how frivolous and unimportant these things are, and how they're going to come to nothing soon. Let's go from here. Let's grab Hebrews chapter 10. We'll start at the first verse there as well. So some of the relevance today as trumpets, we are in a sense to be as trumpets and warn our people. It makes us make sure we are wise as well. A trumpet is a distinct sound. And when you blow a literal trumpet, it's piercing and loud. Well, let's be wise. The scriptures tell us to be wise as well. But we still need to be in the mindset of blowing a trumpet and getting that word and that truth to our people. Go ahead and go to read that.
Hebrews 10:1. For the law, having a shadow of good things to come, and not the very image of the things, can never with those sacrifices which they offered year by year continually make the comers thereunto perfect. For then would they not have ceased to be offered, because that the worshippers once purged should have had no more conscience of sins. But in those sacrifices there is a remembrance again made of sins every year. For it is not possible that the blood of bulls and of goats should take away sins. Wherefore, when he cometh into the world, he saith, sacrifice and offering thou wouldest not, but a body hast thou prepared me. In burnt offerings and sacrifices for sin, thou hast had no pleasure.
Right. So here it's saying, going into, even the laws of sacrifice and offerings and trumpets were still foreshadowing the great events to come. Right. And things that would take place and go down here in the earthly realm. And that, like we're saying, reiterating how the trumpet is being blown now so that we can gather the people to the understanding, to accept the sacrifice of Christ, which, is all going to kind of tie in together, especially as we understand that the blowing of the trumpet starts to lead into, and it's a warning, which we'll get an understanding of to us, to prepare for the atonement, the day of atonement that's coming. But as the blowing of the trumpet is a time for us to take a memorial of understanding and to remember ourselves, to take an account and remember that we are living sacrifices to the Father and to Christ. Taking again an account and remembrance of going to the water in baptism and remembering our sin and our sinful ways that we put down and are turning away from. So it's a blowing of a trumpet to us. And we'll get that in the scriptures here too, a little bit more. Let's go to Joseph.
Joshua.
Yeah, Joshua. Sorry about that. And we're going to go to the 6th chapter. Here we're going to look at another significant instance of a blowing of the trumpets. Yeah, Joshua, the 6th chapter. We're going to start at the first verse.
Joshua 6:1. Now Jericho was straitly shut up because of the children of Israel. None went out, and none came in. And the Most High said unto Joshua, See, I have given into thine hand Jericho.
So this is the children of Israel coming out of the wilderness, and the Most High sending them into their land. And he says, See, I have given into thine hand Jericho. Because of Israel, the people are shut in. None went out, and none came in. So he's given into the hand of Israel the land of Jericho.
And verse 2. And the Most High said unto Joshua, See, I have given into thine hand Jericho, and the king thereof, and the mighty men of valor. Verse 3. And ye shall compass the city, all ye men of war, and go round about the city once. Thus shalt thou do 6 days. And the 7 priests shall bear before the ark 7 trumpets of ram's horns.
Okay, so he's saying ye shall compass the city, all ye men of war, and go round about the city once. Thou shall y'all do 6 days. So he's sending them round about the city. Do that once, and do that 6 days consecutively. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 4. And 7 priests shall bear before the ark 7 trumpets of ram's horns. And the 7th day ye shall compass the city 7 times. And the priests shall blow with trumpets.
And the priests shall blow with trumpets. So on the 7th day, they're going to compass it 7 times. And then they're going to blow, the priest will blow the trumpet.
And it shall come to pass that when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, and when ye hear the sound of the trumpet, all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city shall fall down flat, and the people shall ascend up every man straight before him. And Joshua, the son of Nun, called the priests, and said unto them, Take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Most High. And he said unto the people, Pass on, and compass the city, and let him that is armed pass on before the ark of the Most High. And it came to pass, when Joshua had spoken unto the people, that the 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns passed on before the Most High, and blew with the trumpets. And the ark of the covenant and the Most High followed them.
So the Most High followed them through their obedience.
Can I say one thing?
Mm-hmm.
I was watching the documentary Patterns of Evidence, and Elder Ricard had the brother who made that documentary on the radio show. And in the documentary, it shows archaeologically in Jericho how this happened. In the exact area that was known as Jericho at that time, like when archaeologists dug up that area, they could see that what we just read was what was just illustrated in Scripture actually happened, and they had actual proof of the walls that came tumbling down. And it was even proof of a section of the wall that didn't come tumbling down, which is explained in Scripture because of the sister that helped Israel, who lived in Jericho. She lived in that particular point in the wall, and Israel promised that if she did this and helped Israel out, that she wouldn't perish with the rest of Jericho. And all of that is shown through archaeology. So when they try to say that there's not proof of our ancestry and proof of the Bible, it definitely is.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. And there's time and time again of archaeological, factual, historical proof. You know why? Because this book is a history book. It's not a mythical story of made up ideas and fancy fairy tales. This is our history book. This is true history, outweighing any history book of man. These are true and real accounts. These are our people. I'm glad you pointed that out. So yeah, let's jump right back in where we were.
verse 6 or verse 9. And the armed men went before the priests that blew the trumpets, and the rearward came after the ark, the priests going on and blowing with the trumpets. And Joshua had commanded the people, saying, Ye shall not shout, nor make any noise with your voice, neither shall any word proceed out of your mouth until the day I bid you shout. Then shall ye shout.
Yeah. See that order that was given? Then the obedience that had to be taking place. And that's when the Most High, that's when He is our power. You know, that's how we fell in the first place and lost our power, is our disobedience. Do you think that the fact of them walking around the walls somehow softened the foundation to where the rock started to crumble? Was that a physical attribute to the reason those walls fell? I don't think they were the first people to walk around that wall. It didn't fall because they were walking on it. It fell because they were given orders directly from the Most High. And you see exactly what He went to do. After He was told, He went and told them, this is what we're going to do. This is what thus saith the Lord. They did it in obedience, and then the Most High moved on their part. And it's, again, showing the importance of the trumpet. You remember, right? This is the memorial of the blowing of the trumpets. The importance of what the trumpets have done to us. Those were a true people. Those were our fathers that were there in a case, in a state, looking to, find their home after being in the wilderness. This ain't a light thing. This is a great work, and it was a great time for our people. So this is a remembrance of the trumpets.
Somebody grab her.
All right.
Verse 11. So the ark of the Most High compassed the city, going about it once, and they came into the camp and lodged in the camp. Verse 12. And Joshua rose early in the morning, and the priests took up the ark of the Most High, and 7 priests bearing 7 trumpets of ram's horn before the ark of the Most High went on continually, and blew with the trumpets. And the armed men went before them, but the rearward came after the ark of the Lord, and the priests going on, and blowing of the trumpets. Verse 14. And the second day they compassed the city once, and returned into the camp. So they did 6 days. And it came to pass on the 7th day, that they rose early about the dawning of the day, and compassed the city after the same manner 7 times. Only on that day they compassed the city 7 times.
Mm-hmm.
And it came to pass at the 7th time, when the priests blew with the trumpets, Joshua said unto the people, Shout, for the Lord has given you the city, and the city shall be accursed, even it and all that are therein, to the Most High. Only Rahab, the harlot, shall live.
Right. That's where, Brother Satak had mentioned that when they went to spy out the land beforehand, when you read earlier in the book, and she gave them information, concerning the city, and she was reserved, and as he said, there's archaeological proof of some of the architecture in that time was of a sense of them living in homes, people within the walls themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it shows where this there was a place in the wall where everything had crumbled, but archaeologically, historical proof where there was a place that was left untouched and reserved. So this is that account. Go ahead.
And the city shall be accursed, even it and all that are therein, to the Most High. Only Rahab the harlot shall live, and she and all that are with her in the house, because she hid the messengers that we sent. And ye in any wise keep yourselves from the accursed thing, lest ye make yourselves a curse. When ye take of the accursed thing, and make the camp of Israel a curse, and trouble it. But all the silver and gold and vessels of brass and iron are consecrated unto the Most High.
So don't deal with the accursed things, the things that are not of the Most High, the things that are unclean, whether it be swine and idols and whatever other types of things that were being dealt with. He's like, don't deal with it. But where is it there? What did he tell him to get?
19.
Go ahead and read
But
it.
all the silver and gold and vessels of brass and iron are consecrated unto the Most High. They shall come into the treasury of the Most High.
Mm-hmm.
And notice too in verse 18 it says, when you deal with the accursed things, it doesn't just affect you, but it affects the whole camp of Israel.
That's right.
So it's important not just for you as an individual, but for all of those who are part of the fellowship and a part of the body. Verse 20. So the people shouted when the priest blew with the trumpets. And it came to pass when the people heard the sound of the trumpet, and the people shouted with a great shout, that the wall fell down flat, so that the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they took the city. And they utterly destroyed all that was in the city, both man and woman, young and old, and ox and sheep and ass, with the edge of the sword. But Joshua had said unto the two men that had spied out the country, go into the harlot's house, and bring out thence the woman and all that she had, as ye swear unto her. And the young men that were spies went in and brought out Rahab and her father and her mother and her brethren, all that she had. And they brought out all her kindred and left them without the camp of Israel.
Okay. So here's another example of a use of the trumpet, right? And here we are with the memorial of the blowing of the trumpets, remembering what the trumpet has been to us as a people, remembering from, the wilderness, and of course here in Jericho, right? And here in this situation, we're looking at a situation of destruction. Where was it at? Verse 21, and they utterly destroyed all that was in the city, both man, woman, ox, right? So we're looking at a situation of destruction. The trumpets are a warning. They can and will, and we'll see as we read, also be come with destruction as well. Let's get you know what? Before we move on, go to here in Joshua, get chapter 5, and we'll go read verse 14.
Joshua 5 and 14. And he said, nay, but as captain of the host of the Most High, I am now come. And Joshua fell on...
Actually, can you start at 13?
Verse 13. And it came to pass when Joshua was by Jericho that he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there stood a man over against him with his sword drawn in his hand.
So he's looking up on Jericho, and he sees a man with his sword drawn in his hand, right? Go ahead.
And Joshua went unto him and said unto him...
Now they supposed to be about to take this city. So he's seeing some man here with a sword drawn. And what?
And Joshua went unto him and said unto him, art thou for us or for our adversaries?
So he's saying, who are you? Are you here in battle and preparation with us or against us? Right?
Verse 14. And he said, nay, but as captain
Hold up. Naomi. All right.
Verse 14. And he said, nay, but as captain of the host of the Most High am I now come.
Right. But as captain of the host of the Most High. We see what's going on here. This is the spiritual. This is the captain of the host, the heavenly host of the Most High, the captain. That's who he saw with a sword, prepared to work on behalf of Israel. Right? So I just wanted to get that and show that real quick. Go ahead and finish reading that verse, and then we'll move on.
And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and did worship, and said unto him, what saith my Lord unto his servant? And the captain of the Most High's host said unto Joshua, loose thy shoe from off thy foot, for the place whereon thou standing is holy. And Joshua did so.
All right. So just again showing how the Most High is in battle on our behalf. But as well giving more significance and understanding to the trumpet, the remembering of the trumpet, and the understanding of the trumpets, right? But I wanted to grab that, kind of because we touched on it, the obedience and the Most High working with us in our obedience. Let's go from here. We'll go to Revelations.
And it also shows how the Most High works in the spirit realm. Like these things that we may not understand. Like, why is he telling me to, do this? And even when he told the leopard to go to the water and dip himself 7 times, and he's like, why is he telling me to go do this? It's because there's a spirit realm that's at work. So we may not always understand physically why we walking around Jericho's walls, but just do it in obedience. Because as Joshua saw that man standing there with the sword, there was a host of angels there prepared to go to war that no one saw.
Mm-hmm.
That's what brought the walls down. The obedience, and then the Most High had used the trumpet as a sign for the angels to destroy Jericho.
Right. Exactly. That's what brought the walls down. Not the walking and the feet, of course not. They weren't the first ones to walk there.
The obedience of them doing that brought their walls down.
Exactly. The obedience.
Where we at, brother?
Revelations 8. We'll start at verse 1.
Revelations 8 and 1.
And I'm going to tell you, that correlates directly to our obedience as trumpets today. As we bring trumpets, like the kingdom is within us. As we do the work and blow the trumpet, there's a spiritual realm that is in action as well. Get Matthew 24 real quick. Matthew 24 and 14. And we'll hold where you at because we're coming right back to it.
Matthew 24 and 14. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come.
The destruction and the end coming. What is that preaching of the gospel? That's related and directly to the blowing of our trumpet. It's telling Israel what's going on. The gospel, the kingdom that's coming. Right? So we see, how it's directly, our obedience in the physical is directly linked to the spiritual.
That's good. Continue or back in Revelation?
Let's go back to Revelations. We'll go to Revelations 8.
Revelations 8, chapter 1. When ye had opened the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of half an hour.
This is going to go into, some of that, the trumpets and the destruction, right? Go ahead.
Verse 2. And I saw the 7 angels which stood before the Most High, and to them were given 7 trumpets.
Okay, so we are in Revelations. We understand, the depth and the understanding that comes in Revelations. Speaking of the end time and the destruction and the angels that will bring that destruction, and the 7 angels who were given the trumpets, right? We just read of examples of the trumpets being blown and the destruction that comes after. Let's go. And there's more there to read. I wanted to touch on it for us to see and give the example. But it can be read there in Revelations throughout, and there in the 8th chapter and so forth. But we're not going to, for the sake of time, we won't read through all of that. Let's go from here. Let's grab Amos. We'll go to the 9th chapter. So those angels were the angels that were bringing the impending destruction upon the earth in the spiritual realm, right? Just like they didn't see the host at Jericho. They just were obedient. We don't see the heavenly host before us, but we are to be obedient and blow our trumpet. And then in obedience, allow the Father to work, in the spiritual realm. Amos chapter 9, verse 8.
Amos 9 and 8. Behold, the eyes of the Most High God, power, are upon the sinful kingdom, and I will destroy it from off the face of the earth, saving that I will not utterly destroy the house of Jacob, saith the Lord.
Right. So here we are again in reference to that destruction.
For lo, I will command, and I will sift the house of Israel among all nations, like as corn is sifted in a sieve.
Okay. But he's talking about sifting the house of Israel from amongst the nations. I mean, I know that isn't our point of discussion or topic of discussion, but I do want to make sure we bring that out and understand, there will be a sifting from amongst the nations and from amongst this destruction.
Yet shall not the least grain fall upon the earth.
Go ahead and read verse 10 as well.
All the sinners of my people shall die by the sword, which say the evil shall not overtake nor prevent us.
Okay. Get Zechariah chapter, the 4th chapter. I know the children are getting restless. We outside and they see all the nature and want to run around. We gotta. I'm not gonna short the word. We're gonna get what we need, but it won't be too much longer.
Chapter is that?
4. We've been blessed with a beautiful day out here. Wasn't in the plans, but praise the Most High.
Zechariah 4 and 9. And the angel, verse 9. The hands of Zerubbabel have laid the foundation of this house. His hands shall also finish it. And thou shalt know that the Most High of hosts has sent me unto you.
The Most High of hosts, of the heavenly hosts. All right.
Has sent me unto you. For who has despised the day of small things? For they shall rejoice and shall see the plummet in the hand of Zerubbabel with those 7. They are the eyes of the Most High, which run to and fro through the earth, through the whole earth.
Right. So here it is, just talking about those 7 angels. When it speaks of the shalt know that the Lord of hosts have sent me, the heavenly host. Then it goes into those 7 that will go run to and fro throughout the whole world. Right. So just bringing more edification and clarity to what we were reading in Revelations and Amos, the heavenly host working on in our behalf as we are through our obedience here on earth. Right. Let's grab Revelations, the 10th chapter. We'll go back to Revelations.
And notice how we've read in a couple of scriptures how it refers to the angels being the eyes of the Most High.
Mm-hmm.
And how the eyes of the Most High report back to the Most High. And when they report back to the Most High sends them back out with a mission.
That's right.
Revelations what?
Revelations chapter 10. We'll start at verse 7.
Revelations 10 and 7. But in the days of the voice of the 7th angel, when he shall begin to sound, the mystery of the Most High shall be finished, as he has declared to his servants the prophets. And the voice which I heard from heaven spake unto me again, and said, Go and take the little book which is open in the hand of the angel, which standeth upon the sea and upon the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And I went unto...
You can go ahead from there and go to chapter 11, verse 15.
Chapter 11, verse 15.
Right there in Revelation. So we're reading of these 7 angels and this destruction, kind of focusing and bringing more of the relevance of, like we said, from the past, the history, to the present, and to the future. Kind of bringing some of the relevance of the trumpet, how it's not something that's done away with and finished or fulfilled and, something from old time. The relevance of that trumpet today, and in the earthly realm, and the destruction that is to come, that is being spoken of here.
Revelations 11, verse 15. And the seventh angel sounded, and there were great voices in heaven, saying, the kingdoms of the world are become the kingdoms of the Most High and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. And the 24 elders which sat before the Most High on their seats fell upon their faces and worshipped the Most High, saying, we give thee thanks, O Most High Power Almighty, which art and art to come, because thou hast taken to thee thy great power, and has reigned.
We're going to get a little bit more here in Revelations, then we'll move on. Go to chapter 16, verse 17. We'll start there.
Revelation 16 and 17.
But understand, as we read in this, the relevance to us and the importance as trumpets. We are to warn our people, as a voice of truth, and inform our people of what is of the times that we are in, the time to return to Christ. Right?
Correct.
Revelation 16 and 17. And the seventh angel poured out his vial unto the air, and there came a great voice out of the temple of heaven from the throne, saying, it is done. And there was voices, and thunders, and lightnings, and there was a great earthquake, such as was not since men were upon the earth. So mighty an earthquake, and so great. And the great city was divided into 3 parts, and the cities of the nations fell. And great Babylon came in remembrance before the Most High, to give unto her the cup of wine of the fierceness of his wrath.
Right, and great Babylon. So we see what's being spoken of here, the destruction of Babylon, and the destruction that is to come, even outside of Babylon. So it's imperative that we are, that trumpet again. And it may not be a situation where, like I said, we be wise and cunning that we may gain a brother and bring someone to Christ. It may not be that as a trumpet, you sit down with somebody at an initial, meeting someone and bust out Revelation 16, but we need to look to blow that trumpet, to spread that gospel, to spread the news that this isn't the end all be all. This isn't where we need to be striving for a place in a kingdom. This isn't that kingdom to be looking to have a place, a stature, or a rank. And let them know who we are and that it's time to return to Christ, who's bringing a righteous kingdom, a kingdom that will stand forever. A righteous kingdom. Can anybody fathom and imagine that after all this silliness and wickedness we have to deal with today? Worried about if you can commute from one place to another and what street you can drive up and down and what kind of situation you might end up in. So that's important that we be blowing that trumpet. This is a memorial of the trumpets. Remember that trumpet. Remember our trumpet. Remember our voice. Right?
Verse 20. And every island fled away, and the mountains were not found. And there fell upon men a great hail out of heaven, every stone about the weight of a talent. And the men blasphemed the Most High because of the plague of the hail. For the plague thereof was exceeding great.
Exceeding great. All right, we don't need to read any more of that. I wanted to just get the gist. I think we do have that. Let's go to Isaiah. We'll go to the 27th chapter. And we'll go ahead. I'm sorry, brother.
Was it Isaiah 27, you said?
Yes.
Thank you. Wow.
So we'll start to look at, some of these signs. Because we are a warning, and we are a sign within ourselves. But here, let's look at some of the signs that to look for and to see as this time approaches us.
Which verse?
Verse 13.
Isaiah 27 and 13. And it shall come to pass in that day that the great trumpet shall be blown, and they shall come which were ready to perish in the land of Assyria, and the outcasts in the land of Egypt, and shall worship the Most High in the holy mount at Jerusalem. Continue.
Yeah, go ahead and read.
Verse 1. Woe to the crown of pride to the drunkards of Ephraim, whose glorious beauty is a fading flower.
Okay. But yeah, so there in verse 13, it's speaking of a great deliverance of the Most High's people. So we're reading of the destruction that's coming, but understand that is actually a deliverance that's coming, and a great kingdom that is coming, a deliverance for his people, and a deliverance for all and any nation who chooses to follow the God of the Israel, of the Hebrews, the God of the children of Israel, right? So there is a deliverance as well. From here we're going to read from the Apocalypse of Baruch. Again, kind of showing some of those signs to signs to look for the upcoming destruction.
Apocalypse of Baruch. And he answered and said unto me, into 12 parts is that time divided, and each one of them is reserved for that which is appointed for it. In the first part, there shall be the beginning of commotion.
Okay, so it's saying that time of destruction is divided, and the coming of that destruction and the signs of that destruction is divided into 12 parts. So we're going to read of those 12 parts. And as we're reading, these are signs of those times, leading to the times as we go from part 1 to 2 to 3 and so forth.
What chapter you in, brother?
What is that? 28?
27?
27.
27. Apocalypse of Baruch, chapter 27.
Verse 1. I'll be reading in verse 2. In the first part, there shall be the beginning of commotions. Verse 3. In the second part, there shall be slayings of the great ones. And in the third part, the fall of many by death.
We've seen the slaying of many great ones. We know great men come and go, but no man is going to save Israel but Christ.
And in the third part, the fall of many by death. And in the fourth part, the sending of the sword. And in the fifth part, famine and the withholding of rain. When it says the sending of the sword, we know that that's war. And, we definitely have seen the sending of the sword.
We have seen it, and it's done nothing but just continue to ramp up. It's nothing new, all the way back from Desert Storm, and we can continue on. But, I'm sure it's in the news. It's something that's been happening for a while, but it's made its way into the news, into the headlines, where you have babies washed up ashore, where it's catching a lot of people's attention, where you're seeing all these different refugees who are just being pushed out of their homes, and out of their where their land. This war and things are just it's not something that is decreasing or slowing down. It's not like, oh yeah, so they done took care of that land, the war is almost over. Nah, wouldn't you think at some point, if there was a just war, there would be a war, the war would be finished, but these wars are just continuing to escalate. One war won't smolder out while another one's beginning, and they're all just smoldering and then continuing to burn and continuing to spread, daily, weekly. It just continues to grow, and then instead of wars ending, we're looking towards, and the conversations are about what the next war is going to be. Well, how can we make a deal with these people? Because there's another war coming. We're dealing with these people and a financial thing that, and they manipulating this. Let's get ready for this war with them too. Whether it's China or Russia or Iran. Where's the end in sight for this? Let's be realistic.
Yeshaya.
Exactly.
Verse 7. And in the sixth part, earthquakes and terrors.
Right.
Verse 8, wanting. Verse 9. And in the eighth part, a multitude of specters and attacks of Shittim.
That's the spiritual realm and attacks. Which is, man, they operating on a heavy level, opening up and releasing and, dealing in witchcraft in a heavy way.
Whether you're talking about movies or
Oh my
pharmaceuticals
goodness.
or the foods.
Those movies alone. I mean, you can't sit down and watch television with your family without some spirit jumping up in your house. I mean, those movies alone, every other movie is some spiritual horror movie. It's like, y'all didn't, I mean, they got a lot of time on their hands. That's a lot of, I mean, I'm like, man, they won't stop. They don't have to wait for the season, Halloween or nothing. I mean, I mean, it's just totally bombarded.
Exorcism Part 15.
I mean, really. You know, and like the brother mentioned, that's one little piece. You know, these gates and these things are being opened up in ways and levels and situations and zones that we not even fathoming or considering or looking at. They hard at work to try to restore and hold together this kingdom which is falling. Sorry.
And just like the Most High has a people who's dedicated to being obedient to Him, and the spirit realm responds to that, Satan has a people who are running this kingdom that we know, and they doing things to be obedient to Him. They going about and they having their feast days. They going about having their convocations. They going about having their sacrifices to gain power, just as Satan copies the Most High. And on the left hand side.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
That's right.
God.
So that's what these specters and shittims and attacks is concerning. It's concerning the spirits of the enemy that are at work against the host of the Most High. But they don't have a chance.
Are we seeing any of these signs? I mean, I think so, right? You know, from the wars and earthquakes. Let's continue reading.
Verse 10. And in the ninth part, the fall of fire. We see that for sure. The West Coast has not been on fire. Verse 11. And in the 10th part, rapine and much oppression. And in the 11th part, wickedness and unchastity.
The rapine and much oppressing. The people doing without. I mean, it's something that we've just almost become accustomed to. And that's, you know, it's around the globe. You know, I know we are all, you know, familiar. I was just so happened to see something the other day, you know, where it was showing our brothers and sisters in Haiti, you know, cooking up and eating, having to eat the dirt, you know, but, you know, we're seeing these things all over, that oppression. And then what was next? The wickedness and unchastity. I mean, man, anything goes. What is not okay? We are now in a place now where if you don't subscribe to some of this nature and acts and approve of the wickedness, you being persecuted and looked upon as being, you know, the crazy one. You know, we got this situation right here in our state, Missouri, this transsexual. I don't even like to say the word. You know what I mean? Where supposedly this boy, this young man wants to frequent the women's place, the bathroom, and the locker room. About it. Yeah, he wants to be in the locker room. Have y'all seen this? Y'all saw this, right? Yeah, it's all over the news. It's an international news. A transsexual. Yeah, that's what it's.
Let's get it right. He's transgender. You got to be politically correct.
Transgender.
That's your name. Like, I'm not that stuff, so I'm trying to stay from that.
Wickedness. Walking around like it's okay. No shame.
Wickedness.
Look at that. It's flaunted. It's like I'm going to just walk around. This is my everyday situation. It used to at least be, you know,
an outcast.
Yeah, I'm not proud. You know, I got to wait till night and go to a secret place. Now it's being proclaimed. And it's being written into our law.
Every TV show, every movie, every magazine. You cannot. You can't maneuver without seeing it.
Not to mention, what's her Catherine, Caitlyn Jenner. Hey.
And that's being glorified now.
So in the 11th part, wickedness and unchastity, just letting loose. Spirits, go ahead.
Verse 13. And in the 12th part, confusion from the mingling together of all those things aforesaid.
So then the 12th part is the mingling of all of this, all just taking place on grand scales and levels, all at the same time. Like Elder Ricard has went into in the times. And that's something that he went into intensely concerning the blowing of the temples and his lesson, blowing of the trumpets and his lessons on that, which if anybody hasn't seen that, make sure you check it out. He's very, magnifying the times. Because as we read here, we at the end of these signs we was going to read, we had 12. There were 12. And we can identify with everything we're reading and the mingling of it all. So they, again, bringing back the importance of remembering the trumpet, remembering the time. And as we see when we get further into this, not only are we to remember as to be a trumpet to others, but it's time for us to be hearing the trumpet and take a remembrance from this holy day to get ourselves right. To take heed ourselves to the warning and the memorial of the blowing of the trumpets. Go ahead and continue reading that.
Verse 13. And in the 12th part, confusion from the mingling together of all those things aforesaid. For these parts of that time are reserved and shall be mingled one with another and minister one to another. For some shall leave out some of their own and receive in its stead from others. And some shall complete with their own and that of others, so that those may not understand who are upon the earth in those days, that this is the consummation of the times. Nevertheless, whosoever understandeth shall then be wise.
All right, let's get Matthew's. I'm going to try to speed up a little bit. We're losing our power here, and I want to try to make sure we get this whole lesson. We're going to Matthew's 24, and we're going to go to start at verse 4. As the wise, we need to take heed to these signs. Listen to the warnings. Hear the trumpet. Be a trumpet unto our people. Verse 24, chapter 24, verse 4, Matthew's.
And Yeshua answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you.
More signs, by the way. That's what we're going into.
For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ.
Filling up auditoriums. Filling up stadiums. Go ahead. Many will come.
And shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. For all these things...
So these things will come, but we are not to be troubled. Go ahead.
For all of these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom.
Wars, racism, nation, race, kingdoms against kingdoms, wars, economic sanctions, and so forth. These are acts of war. Go ahead.
And therefore shall be famines and pestilences.
We're seeing all
and
that.
Earthquakes in diverse places.
Mm-hmm.
All these are the beginning of sorrow.
This is Christ.
Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another.
Mm-hmm.
And many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold.
Mm-hmm.
But he that shall endure until the end.
More signs, right? Love will wax cold. Many offended. Betraying one another. Man, that's just regular, right? That's just regular. Go ahead.
But he that shall endure until the end, the same shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations.
Blow the trumpet.
And then shall the end come. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. Whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes.
I tell you what, this goes on. We're in Matthew's, the 24th chapter. And where you at now?
Verse 16.
16. This go, we won't read it for the sake of time, but you can continue reading this entire chapter, right on through verse 31, where it's just going through the signs of these times that we're living in, where people are betraying and offending and all these different things. Like I said, these are all evident today, right? Let's go and let's get Psalms. We'll go to Psalms, the 81st chapter. Get another instance, an example of the trumpet, right?
Psalms 81.
We went into the destruction, right? And the blowing of the trumpet as a warning. Let's read here.
Psalms 81, verse 1. Sing aloud unto the Most High, our strength. Make a joyful noise unto the Most High of Jacob. Take a psalm and bring hither the timbrel, the pleasant harp with the psaltery. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the time appointed on our solemn feast days.
Right. So the trumpet can be blown as a time of joy and of great joy and feasting and excitement, which is, we're understanding the blowing of the trumpet for the destruction and these different things. But, it's also a time for feasting and great joy as we coming together today, as a convocation with our brothers and sisters, to partake in a feast. Go ahead.
For this was a statute for Israel, and a law of the Most High of Jacob. This he ordained in Joseph for a testimony, when he went out through the land of Egypt, where I heard a language that I understood not.
Mm-hmm.
I removed his shoulder from the burden. His hands were delivered from the pots.
Yeah, so it's speaking of being delivered, and the trumpet is being referred to here, where it's something to be blown and enjoy, in celebration, right? Let's get 1 Corinthians. We'll go to chapter 15. And beginning to be delivered, that because that destruction is also, even within the destruction, is a deliverance within itself. The trumpet being blown in celebration of the coming of the kingdom and the destruction of this unrighteous kingdom that we're in. Yeah, it's destruction, but it's the coming of our Savior.
1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 50. Now this I say, brethren, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of the Most High, neither doeth corruption inherit incorruption. Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. For the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed.
Right. So you see that? In the twinkling of an eye, at that last trump, the trumpet shall sound. And these are the reasons that we are commemorating the trumpets. We're looking at the last trump that is to be sound. We're going, like I said, it transcends from the past, from the beginning to up through now, to the present, and to the time to come. The trumpet is not something that's forgotten and of no importance or use to us as a people or to the Most High. This is talking about that last trump, as we spoke about the angels giving the trumpets to blow. That's what we coming together in remembrance for, as we sit here and come together and go through these scriptures and get understanding. That's what it's talking about when the Most High say, remember, come together and remember the trumpet. One of the things I don't want, I can't, leave without discussing as we get ready to prepare for the Day of Atonement. We are to take, that's another purpose for the holy day, the blowing of the trumpet, is as a remembrance for ourselves, to remember to prepare ourselves for, for the Day of Atonement. And the atonement being the atonement of Christ for our sins. Get Romans chapter 12. Let me see. Yeah, read 12. Romans chapter 12, start at verse 1.
Romans 12 and 1. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of the Most High, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto the Most High.
And we'll go into the atonement a little bit more next week as we prepare for the Day of Atonement to come. But this is kind of the mind frame that we need to start putting ourselves in, preparing ourselves for the Day of Atonement, preparing ourselves by spiritually preparing and purging ourselves, getting ourselves right, cleaning our home, and preparing ourselves to be presented as a sacrifice, a clean sacrifice to the Father, to the Most High, right? Shalom, brother. How y'all doing? Right. Preparing ourselves, to be, removing our sins, getting ourselves ready for Christ, who was the atonement for our sins. His blood was for the remission of our sins. So when we look at the Day of Atonement and we're looking at the blowing of the trumpets going into the Day of Atonement, the blowing of a trumpet is also a signification and a signal and a warning of preparation for us who understand and believe. It's time for us to take account of ourselves in a heavy, strong manner, looking at ourselves and preparing ourselves, purifying and ourselves of offenses amongst each other, of sins and the things that we're dealing with, to prepare ourselves at perfect sacrifice, ourselves to the Father, a living sacrifice, right? So before I close out, I want to go to Leviticus 24. That's Leviticus 23. And we'll start at, I believe it's 26. Yes.
Leviticus 23, verse 26. And the Most High spake unto Moses, saying, also on the 10th day of this 7th month there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be a holy convocation unto you.
The 10th day of this same month, right? So we're in the beginning of a new month. On the 10th day, we're looking at the Day of Atonement. Go ahead.
It shall be a holy convocation unto you, and ye shall afflict your souls, and offer an offering made by fire unto the Most High. And ye shall do no work in that same day. And for it is a day of atonement, to make an atonement for you before the Most High your power.
To make an atonement for you. It's a day of atonement, to make an atonement for you before the Most High our power. That's that preparations of ourselves as a sacrifice. Go ahead, verse 29.
For whatsoever soul it be that shall not be afflicted in that same day, he shall be cut off from among his people.
So we are to afflict our souls. That pain of shedding our unrighteousness and preparing ourselves whole and clean. And when it goes into that afflicting our souls, fasting, and pleading and putting ourselves, placing ourselves before the Most High, and purified. So that's taken in account. This isn't like a situation where we're going into a pleasurable thing. It's talking about afflicting ourselves, examining, you know, really putting that mirror before ourselves and preparation. Like I said, that blowing of the trumpet, that warning. Because as Elder Ricard referred to, what if it is, like as Christ has set this in place, how he set the Sabbath in place to remember and keep us in sync with the times. And he set the blowing of the trumpets in place to keep us in remembrance of the blowing of the trumpets, to keep us in the remembrance of being warned and prepared forever. What if it is that Christ is coming on the Day of Atonement, his actual return? It's not to be remembered for nothing. He's saying, remember the blowing of the trumpets. Hear the warning yourselves, ourselves, as understandings and believers of who we are and what this is. Remember the blowing of the trumpets, that warning for us to be prepared. So that's what I wanted to touch on that. We'll go into it more next week. But as we prepare, even going into next week, I want us to get our minds right and set right for this in advance. As we even prepare going into next week, be preparing to get ourselves right, presenting ourselves, cleaning ourselves up on the outside as well. Like take a special account of being clean, inside and out, washing our hands and our feet, being in that mental zone of preparation and purification spiritually and physically for the Most High. That's where we need to start, preparing as we approach the Day of Atonement. And we'll discuss amongst us, setting aside a time where we can look to fast or afflict our soul as a body, to whatever the extent or level that individuals are able. But that's another facet of the blowing of the trumpets as we personalize it. That's why it's to be remembered forever. Okay? So, I wanted to, wrap it up on that note, to make sure we take that part away from it and begin to prepare ourselves, for that purification. You have anything you want to
You
bring
covered
on
it, brother.
All right. So with that, that concludes our the lesson and understanding on the Feast of the Trumpets, the blowing of the trumpets and what it is. And you see the magnitude and the scope, of the past, the present, the future, personally, speaking to others, being a trumpet to others, hearing the trumpet of warning ourselves. Remember the trumpet. Remember the Most High went to Moses. Make a trumpet. Blow it for this. That's what we're coming together to remember in a feast under the Most High. So with that, I want to just say, I hope in the spirit of the Most High, that there was some edification and understanding that came forth from this message, this lesson. And we're going to say on that, Shabbat Shalom. And for everyone out there, enjoy your feast and the remembering of the trumpets. Shalom, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.